There are two other types of pairs of angles that are really important and go well together. I want to share them with you. The first one are called complementary angles. Two angles are said to be complementary if you measure the angle of each, and it turns out the sum of the measures equals 90 degrees. So take a look here at angle ABC and angle CBD. And notice that the measure of angle ABC is 20 degrees, and the measure of angle CBD is 70 degrees. When you would take 70 and add it to 20, we get 90 degrees. So since we see 90 degrees, we say that these two angles are complementary. Complementary angles, the sum of the measures of those angles add up to 90 degrees. A similar idea is known as supplementary angles. A pair of angles are called supplementary if their sum of the measures equals 180 degrees. So PQS and SQR are supplementary angles because if I take the measure of this, which is 120, and add it to this, which has measure 60, the total sum is 180, and that's what is required in order to be a supplementary angle. Supplementary angles. So these two angles are supplementary, these two angles are complementary. All right, given that as sort of the little setup, let's have some fun and see if we can actually figure out some angles. So here's the first challenge. We're told that this angle here and this angle here are complementary angles, and our mission is to find the measure of angle A. Well, what would the measure of angle A be? The measure of angle A would equal, well, let's see. If they're complementary, then we know that the sum of these two angles equals 90 degrees. And so therefore, what must A be? A must be 50 degrees. Why? Because 50 plus 40 equals 90. So we see 50 degrees. How about here where we're told that the angles are supplementary and I want to figure out the measure of angle B? How would I do that? Well, I know that the measure of angle B plus this measure, which is given to be 110, has to equal 180. So we can actually set up an equation this time if we wanted to. And we could say that the measure of angle B plus 110 has to equal 180. If I want to solve this for B, I'd have to undo the addition of 110 by subtracting 110 from both sides. And when I do that, I see B, and then 110 minus 110 is 0, so I just see B alone. And 180 minus 110 is 70. And so I see the measure of this is 70 degrees, so the measure of angle B equals 70 degrees. And we were able to figure that out because we were told that the angles are supplementary. Okay, how about these challenges? The angles are vertical angles, so we see two straight lines coming together, and they intersect, and these are opposite angles from those two straight lines. They're examples of vertical angles. The measure of this is 30 degrees, and it turns out it's a really important fact in mathematics that if the measure of this is 30 degrees, then that will be the measure of the other angle that is in the pair of vertical angles. So if this is 35 degrees, then this must be 35 degrees. So in fact, 35, this is 35. So the moral of the story here is that vertical angles have the same measure. So if we knew the angle of this, that would be the exact same angle of that as this. So vertical angles have the same measure. This is 35 degrees, therefore this is 35 degrees as well. How about this last one? So we're told that angles ABD, let's see where that is. Angle ABD, that's way up here. And angle CBE, CBE, way up here, are congruent. What does it mean for two angles to be congruent? It means that they have the exact same measure. So they have the exact same measure, and the question is, what is x and what is y? Well, I see that this angle up here, DBE, is 120 degrees. And I see that they all sort of come together to lie on this straight angle, which is 180 degrees. So what can I do? I can say, well, this angle plus that angle plus 120 has to equal the straight angle ABC, which is 180. Now, I can't quite solve that for x or y because I have two unknowns. I have two unknowns here. But what do I know? I know that this angle is congruent to that angle, which means the measure here, x, has to equal the measure here, y. So x and y are the same. So I can replace this y by an x. So I can say x plus 120 equals 180, because I'm told that those two angles are congruent. They have the same measure. Well, x plus x is 2x plus 120 equals 180. And now I can solve this for x. It's a little equation I can solve. I want to undo the addition of 120 by subtracting 120 from both sides to isolate the variable. And when I do that, I see 2x, and here I get a 0, equals, and here I see 60. To undo the multiplication of 2 in front of the x, I divide both sides by 2, and I discover that x equals half of 60, which is 30. So that means that x here must be 30 degrees. Well, if x is 30 degrees and this angle is congruent to this angle, that means that y has to be 30 degrees as well. And we've just found the measures of all the angles. So you can see that using properties of angles, whether they're supplementary, so add up to 180 degrees in measure, or they're complementary, their sum is 90 degrees, or whether we have vertical angles, or whether we have angles that are congruent, we see that once we understand the structure involved with angles, we can actually say something more about the situation than we first might have guessed. So there's a great power in understanding some of these results and then being able to apply them to particular questions.